Now for an India Today cover story. In its 16th year, the India Today Sex Survey has revealed that there is probably a new standard now for sexual relationships which were earlier considered normal, especially at the workplace. What exactly is the survey? Take a look at this report.
India Today's latest sex survey has come as an eye-opener for many. Experimentation in the bedroom and the careful deconstruction of what has been hammered into the collective consciousness as conventional or proper sex has led to a satisfied 61.5% respondents who say that they are perfectly happy with their sex lives. There is very little that is making people cringe these days. And if rimming has found its way into the ordinary urban sexual vocabulary, anal sex is something Indians aren't shying away from either. 61% of respondents said that they enjoy oral sex best. Anal sex zooms to the second position with 43% respondents voting for it as opposed to just 13% in 2003. 27% respondents say that they enjoyed shower sex. 17% said yes to internet sex. 11% said that they are open to bisexual sex. 4% said that they are okay with group sex. And 6% of the respondents said that they use sex toys. While it's seeking new experiences or dreaming up kinky fantasies, cities like Guwahati, Jaipur, Pune, Chandigarh, Patna and Ranchi are leading the revolution, while cities like Delhi and Mumbai seem straight-laced in comparison. It's no surprise then that the pink city is high on the happiness quotient. 90% of respondents here are entirely happy with their sex lives. The number is almost as high as 87% in Ahmedabad and 75% in Ranchi. Some 79% of Pune's respondents are having phone sex and 63% of the respondents from Indore are doing it in the shower. For more on this, grab your copy of India Today magazine now.
In the US, allegations of sexual harassment against Harvey Weinstein created a ripple, a massive movement of Me Too. How is the situation here in India? Sexual relationships increasing at the workplace, but is it consensual, or are these sexual harassment cases coerced against a certain section of young women? India Today MDRA has done a sex survey and they have found that there have been increasing relationships at the workplace, but where does one draw the line? And that is why it is important to debate it. It is not to titillate the viewer, it is important to look into what precisely, how does it impact, especially the young ones who work at here in professions which are with deadlines, which have definitely ambition at work as well. I have an esteemed panel with me, Dr. Swati Kashyap. She's a psychiatrist, behavioral suggestion expert as well. I'm joined by Srimoyi P. Kundu, author and columnist, and she's often written on gender and sexuality issues. Mansi Gulati, she is Mrs. India Asia International 2015, and she is also a model, of course. Also joining me right now is Trisha Shetty. She's the founder and CEO of She Says, literally that talks about women empowerment most of the times. And Damayanti Datta, she's the executive editor, India Today. She's joining me right now. Thank you, women, for joining us. It is always pleasant to have a all-women panel, especially on an issue like this. Let me first come to you, Damayanti, directly. What made you commission this survey? You've done the sex surveys in the past as well, but why was it specific to talk about workplace sexual relationships?
You know, since October, as you know, the Me Too movement started. Before that, the New York Times and New Yorker broke those fabulous stories on Weinstein and what he had been doing to a lot of film stars. So we have been thinking about what to do, how to approach, and finally we decided, and with the permission of the editors, we commissioned this survey.
And how
just
many,
to figure out
how many women and men were interviewed?
We've done 2 surveys this time, total over 5,000 people, but the first part is only about sex at work, which is 2,500 men and women equally.
And what did you find? If you can just give me a gist before we go across to our other guests as well.
You know, the surprise was that so many people are actually involved sexually in workplaces across the country, 28%, which is a huge number. And then maybe it's not a surprise, but it's somewhat of a confirmation that most of these relationships are between bosses and subordinates. So you can imagine that sort of the power structure would definitely come in. Great surprise was cities, some of the cities like in Pune, tremendous amount of
there's a thing called workplace spouses for Pune.
Yeah. I mean, it's very common in Silicon Valley as well, because young people spend
all the
such
time
long
away from
hours.
families and at work.
And so they have mentioned all this. And then Guwahati, a lot of people say they're making out at the workplace.
During work hours.
During work hours.
Srimoy Piyu Kundu, you're an author and columnist. You've written often a lot of articles and posts, specifically your personal experiences as well. Now, the article here says, and the survey that has been done, very interestingly, that 33% men who've had sexual relationships with colleagues, most of them, 57%, have been subordinates, usually, of course, young women. So my question is, where does one draw the line that is it coerced? Is it consensual, and it can lead to sexual harassment cases?
See, I've just written a book on single women in India, where I've interviewed 3,000 single women. And in the chapter on sex, which is called Sex in the City, a lot of women have, they have confessed to having relationships with their bosses who are almost as old as their fathers sometimes. And it's absolutely consensual. And I think, we have this moral parda that we cast over any sexual relationship which is outside the Lakshman Rekha of marriage. But the truth is, even if you go to a dating app like Tinder, you see married people openly flaunting their marital status and wanting to have casual relationships. Link chole gache.
Dr. Swati Kashyap, you're a psychiatrist.
I mean, that's the thing. So India is poised for a sexual revolution.
Damayanti, you agree? Because when you did the survey, you're saying that
I agree. I'm very
consensual
concerned.
Also is blurry.
Who knows what is consensual? Because what happened with Weinstein, for a long time people would have said that they're all consensual, but they may not be.
Because a lot of young women may think that is the way to go. They may presume that
whatever they think, that is not the point. For me, the thing is, sexuality has to be between equals. If it is not an equal relationship, you'd never know what is
And equal
happening.
means what?
Where you're giving your consent not on the basis of the benefits you're going to get out of it.
Okay, let me now go across to Mansi Gulati. She's been a model. There have been several accusations of sexual harassment that come in that profession as well. Now, Mansi, 51%, both men and women have said that their careers have got affected because of sexual relationships at workplace. Yeah. It can be positive, it can be negative. That is a different context. How do you look at this survey? What do you think you make of it?
I feel like women are sexually exploited, at the workplace, transfers, favorable working hours. And like somewhere I feel while women have broken the glass of ceiling, working with fighter planes and military, but still I feel like women is not getting that respect. Still women are treated like a subordinates. So I feel like this. Sexual harassment, what we need to do, we have to raise our voice, and other thing, we have to make in each company, we have to make a committee of sexual harassment.
Okay.
That enforces the law, that enforces the law and that give punishment to the offender.
But how do you decide in your profession, if you ever hear of this issue, how will you be able to say? Because if it's consensual, it's personal business, it's nobody for really to interfere. What do you think a girl, probably a young model in this situation, will have to do if she ever thinks that this is not consensual and it is borderline harassment?
See, I feel like this because I am just telling you about my experience. Sexual harassment. I'm a woman. It's my journey. I've seen, life is all about challenges. Every day we feel a lot of every day we face a lot of challenges in our life. So like sexual harassment, the only thing is that in a society we haven't, women, you know, we are thinking about everything. There is no discrimination, there is nothing, but still we are not getting that respect. Still we are treating like a subordinate.
Let me go across to Trisha Shetty. She's the founder, CEO of She Says. It talks about women empowerment issues. Trisha, do you ever come across these cases? And as the India Today MDRA survey says, that 61% women agree that they've had relationships with their bosses, which are usually male. Only 31% of men would say that they've had such relationships with their women bosses.
So, you know, I think there are a couple of points to note here. One, I am a huge advocate of not interfering in any sort of relationships that two consenting adults choose to indulge in. But having said that, we have to look at the power play dynamics as well. In India, there is still a problem of gender pay gap, which is, I think, women, as per the 2016 data, still get paid 25% less than the male counterparts do. Having said that, even if you look at the total number of rape cases reported as of 2016 NCRB data, which was, I think, 36,000 plus cases, 600 cases reported were by an employer or a co-worker. So, of course, workplaces are still a space where women are being discriminated against, where women are being sexually abused or intimidated. You know, we have a very strong law that covers the rights of women at the workplace, the Protection of Women from Sexual Harassment Act, which doesn't just cover physical and verbal harassment, but even covers harassment that, you know, that goes along the lines of deferential treatment or preferential treatment if you don't indulge in the sexual advances made by your employer or your colleague. So the law is good. But then you come to the implementation of it. The implementation of it is extremely weak. A lot of workplaces don't even have, I believe one of the other panelists referred to having a workplace harassment cell set up. The law mandates for that. Every workplace that has more than 10 employees is supposed to have an internal
Mansi, you want to intervene? Mansi, you want to interject and say something?
Data,
go ahead.
A lot of institutions.
Yeah, our law is also not as strict as US and Europe.
Cases which are
that
consensual.
Is the also thing. Yeah, our law is also not strict as US
I'm
and
sorry,
Europe.
But that's actually not true. It's because you're unaware of the law. Respectfully, I apologize, but that's actually not true. Our law clearly defines what consent means. Our law, ma'am, I am a lawyer. I have studied this. It's nice to come on national TV and criticize our laws.
There is a lot of
albeit
sexual
our laws
harassment
need to be looked at, but our laws on paper are actually good. I agree, which is why if you heard me, I was talking about the implementation of laws.
Implementation of law needs to be there. So we have a law. We have a law. It was set up just a few years back.
It is the
And clearly we know that sexual harassment cases can be taken to court. I'll come back to you, lady. Damayanti, when
I have a point to make
go
about
ahead.
the law. It came in 2013, and there's a mandatory internal complaints committee. That committee allows for only one person, expert from outside, preferably an NGO worker. So when you have a system, a committee within the organization, say against the big man, and you have internal women.
Like R.K. Pachauri case, probably?
You have, look at the law. You have a number of women who are also junior to the man, the accused person. Do you think they will just speak without fear, even in the internal committee? So a lot of lawyers have been telling me in course of doing this work that the law needs to be changed. More outsiders need to come in, because if you have so many insiders, they will never speak without fear.
Srimoy, because you were talking about sexual revolution literally in the country, and we're not going to make any sort of judgment on anybody who decides to go ahead and make it a consensual matter. My concern is we have very strong Vishakha guidelines across professions. Now, even for a couple, I'll be a devil's advocate here. How are two people even supposed to probably figure out that, is it consensual? What if it leads to a harassment case against me tomorrow and it goes both ways?
See, I
feel
think,
like
you know,
there
once
cannot-
you are an adult, this is what I feel, be it a man or a woman, you know exactly what the law is, and you know what you are getting into. See, what we should also look at is this huge thing of urban loneliness. People spending so much of time at the workplace that they are drawn to each other. And of course, firstly, you have to make the critical distinction between compulsion and between consent. So if a man is forcing me to get intimate with him and I am thinking, okay, if I get intimate with him, I'll get a promotion, you know, I'll become a big shot like the others, then that is a conscious choice. And no matter how strong the law is or how weak the implementation, that is really the person's personal prerogative.
Dr. Swati Kashyap.
I know of a man in the organization I worked in who was falsely implicated by a woman. It has happened. That also happens. You know.
Dr. Swati Kashyap, work percolating into private spaces or private spaces percolating into workplace. Where do you think that distinction can be made, or, well, it is to individual to blur their choices?
Right. Well, it is very individual, that is true. But I also feel that when we talk about the new law, the act that came in 2013, now this came in 2013 after the Vishaka guidelines in 1997. But if we look back, our preamble of our constitution itself talks about assuring the dignity of the individual. Our fundamental rights also talk about equality and non-discrimination on the basis of gender. So it is quite a shame that till now we have not been able to educate ourselves as a society to realize that, you know, consensual is a different matter, but why workplace should become a place where people literally prey on women because they feel that these women are our subordinates and maybe they need the money, they need the job, so maybe, you know, we can exploit them. Yes. So this is something which is and the distinction for this
but why
is something
are women
which has
falling
to be
for
made
this? Why are women
each individual,
who are educated and who are well qualified, why are they falling for this? That is the question I'm asking.
Education means of letting people know what is sexual harassment and what all constitutes sexual harassment. So
final comment to you, Damayanti, because you've been a part of this survey. What would be your closing comments? What did you make of this survey in the end? What did you think is the situation currently in India?
You know, I'm concerned with the results. Whether women have the right to do or whatever, the thing is, they need the protection of the law. The law has come in to protect a lot of people. Whether women are doing it consensually or being coerced, my point is that it's a very, very grey zone. It's very difficult to make out what is consent, what is coercion. Human relationship is like that. And it's not easy to...
Srivohi says it's about adults. They are well aware that
doesn't matter. Then we wouldn't need the law. Had it been so, then we wouldn't need the law. The law has come in precisely because of the cases that have been going on since Bhawari Devi.
All right, one quick question to Trisha Shetty. She was raising her hand. I'll have to close the show. Yes, Trisha, go ahead.
May I come in, please? You know, I'm a little worried with a lot of the misinformation that another panelist has put forth. We do, again to reiterate, we do have a very strong, robust law. Even the constitution of the Sexual Harassment Committee, the presiding officer has to be a woman holding a senior ranking position in the workplace. There has to be an external member representing an NGO that looks over any complaints that are reported.
Just
so we
one
do have a
external
strong,
member.
robust law. What is needed is the implementation.
But also, how many women will be willing to probably take it up?
The presiding officer has to be a senior member. All right. The problem with when you all don't go on ground and don't. This is why I'm talking about lack of information. We need implementation of law. We need penalties. We don't have penalties and punitive measures if an employee is not adhering to the POSH Act. That is what we need to be talking about.
Thank you so much. It is important to hear from all sides of the spectrum. To each his own, to each her own. The survey clearly shows that there are increasing sexual relationships at workplace, and the ones that are coerced, may the women stand up to defend themselves, and if it is consensual, then really nobody has to interfere into those matters. Thank you so much for joining us and giving us your perspective on this very important India Today MDRA survey. You can grab your copy of India Today magazine at the closest market shelves. Thank you so much for joining us. Please stay tuned to India Today.
for watching the video. For more such news and updates, please like, share and subscribe to India Today. Also check out our other great videos from our channel. We know you will love to.